He said he was fine on a Tuesday in October, and I believed him for exactly 10 minutes. That was the rule I had set myself, years ago, in another lifetime. 10 minutes of trust, no more, no less, before I checked. I had never needed the 10 minutes. He had always been fine. But on this Tuesday, I used the 10 minutes. I stood at the kitchen sink and washed a single glass and dried it and put it back in the cabinet and watched him from the corner of my eye. The way you watch a man sitting at his own kitchen table, whose hands were not quite right. He was holding a coffee mug, but he wasn't drinking. He was holding it the way you hold a thing you have forgotten you are holding. His thumb was on the handle. His fingers were along the side. The mug was full. Steam had stopped coming off it 10 minutes ago. I knew that mug. I had given it to him 4 birthdays ago, a soft beige one with a chip on the rim from the first week, when he had banged it against the sink laughing at something on his phone, and I had told him he was a man-child, and he had said, "You love it." I did. I loved the mug. I had not loved the man inside it for some time, but I had loved the mug. "Run," he said, without looking up. "You're fine?" "Always." I set a timer on my phone. 10 minutes. I walked into the living room and sat on the couch and stared at the wall above the television, where my mother had once hung a framed print of a single sentence. "Pay attention to the ones who say they are fine." My mother had been a difficult woman. She had been right about a lot of things. 10 minutes passed. The timer went off. I stood up. I walked back into the kitchen. The mug was still full, still in his hands. He had not noticed me cross the room. I sat down across from him. I looked at him for a long time, at the circles under his eyes, at the way his jaw had thinned, at the wedding ring he had started wearing on a different finger, because he had lost 11 pounds over the summer, and it slid. "I'm not fine," I said. I said it to him, but also to me, to the wall, to my mother, to the mug. He looked up. He looked surprised, the way you look surprised when someone answers a question you had not technically asked. "What?" I said, "I'm not fine. Are you?" He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "No." And that was the night everything changed. His name was Callum. He was 36. He taught high school biology in a school named after a man whose portrait we walked past every morning on the way to first period. And Callum had made a half-serious hobby of pointing out to his 10th graders that the man had no business being on a wall. Callum was born in a small town in eastern Oregon, the kind where the same 4 gas stations had the same 4 owners for 2 generations. His mother was a midwife. His father was a man who worked at a lumber yard and came home smelling like sawdust, and never once, in 41 years of marriage, raised his voice. Callum was quiet the way some men are quiet, as a craft, as a discipline, as a sort of sideways love. He said, "I love you" maybe 4 times a year. He said, "I see you every day." He would come into a room and look at me, and the look would last 3 seconds, and in those 3 seconds something in my chest would unlock and I would breathe. We met when I was 19. I had dropped out of college. I was waitressing in a place that served tuna melts and Pinot. He came in every Tuesday at 6:15 p.m. and ordered the same thing, a Coke, no ice, a tuna melt on rye, an extra pickle on the side. He tipped in cash. He read during his meal. He never once looked at his phone. He was, in a word, attentive. I flirted with him for 7 weeks. I dropped a glass once. I misheard his order twice. I asked his name a 3rd time, even though I had it written on the back of a receipt in my apron pocket. On the 8th Tuesday, he closed the book, looked up, and said, "I have a feeling you are not going to drop anything else until I ask you to dinner." I laughed. I said, "I might." "You won't," he said. "You are a precise person pretending to be clumsy." "Dinner Saturday." I said yes. I said yes in a voice I had never used before, small, sure, in the front of my throat. We were married at 25 and 28. We had no children. We had a dog named Mavis who had been Callum's idea and was mostly my job, although in the last year she had become his, sleeping in his study, following him from room to room, sitting under his chair at the table the way a small daughter would. We were happy, in the way people who share a house are happy. We had our script. He brought me coffee in bed on Sundays. I made his lunch every weekday at 6:15 a.m., wrapped in wax paper, with a small note inside. Always the same note: "Run fast, be kind, come home." He never read it at lunch. He always read it on the drive home. After 11 years he had not told me this, but I knew, because the notes were always a little crumpled, as if they had been held. This was the man. This was the man who would look at me across the kitchen table on a Tuesday in October and say he was fine, 3 hours after I had known he was not. He said I'm fine the way other people say hello, to his mother on the phone, on Sundays at 4 p.m., while she asked him how he was feeling, how his father was, how the new dog food was working out, and he would say, "Fine, Mom. Fine, Mom. Yes, Mom," in a voice that was sometimes thinner than other voices. To his sister, who had flown in twice in the last year from 3 states away, who had called him once a week since she was 8 and called him twice a day since August, who had begun, in the last few weeks, leaving voicemails instead of texts because voicemails could not be finded back with one word. He had stopped listening to them by mid-September. To me, in the small currencies of married life. "Did you sleep? Fine. How's work? Fine. The dog's vet visit tomorrow? Fine." Each fine was a brick. Each night they stacked higher. By October the wall was up to the window, and we couldn't see out of it anymore. I should have said something in August. I should have said something in July. I should have said something the night he came home in June, and walked past me in the hallway without touching my shoulder the way he always did, the way he had done for 11 years. And I let him walk past because I was on the phone and it would have been rude. As if rudeness were not already its own kind of violence against a man walking past you without rest. I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything for 4 months because I was afraid that if I said, "Are you okay?" he would say fine, and I would believe him, and we would go back to sleeping on opposite sides of the bed, and I would lose him the way you lose a person cell by cell, in the body, in the dark, with both of you awake. I said nothing and I lost him anyway. The next Tuesday, I did not set a timer. I woke up before him, which I had been doing for the last 2 months because he had started sleeping later, an hour later, sometimes 90 minutes, and I had stopped waking him because he had started snapping at me when I did. He had never snapped at me. In 11 years he had raised his voice twice, once when Mavis had run into the road, once when his father had been rude to me on the phone, and both times he had apologized within 4 minutes. I made coffee in his mug. I put the mug on the table where he always sat. I sat across from him. I watched his hands come around it. I did not speak. I waited for him. He came into the kitchen at 7:41. He sat down. He held the mug. He did not drink. I said, "I know you are not fine." He said nothing. I have known for 4 months. I have known and I said nothing, because I wanted you to come to me. I wanted you to tell me yourself. I wanted it so badly I let you not tell me. He looked up. "That was cruel," I said. "I was cruel to you. I'm sorry." He said, very quietly, "I knew you knew. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't know how to start. Start anywhere. Tell me anything. Tell me what you had for breakfast last Tuesday, because I don't know anymore, Callum. I don't know what time you go to bed, or if you brush your teeth twice a day, or if the medication is making you sick, or what is on your phone that you angle away from me. I don't know. I don't know you. I have spent 4 months living with a man I don't know, and I have been too proud to say what is happening to us, because I thought if I said it out loud it would be true." He put the mug down. His hands were shaking. "I'm not sick," he said. "Then what?" "I'm tired. I'm tired in a different way. I don't know how to fix it. I thought if I said fine long enough it would become true." "Why are you tired?" "Because I have been carrying something for a long time, and it rolls downhill, and the dog is at the bottom, and I am at the bottom, and the dog does what dogs do, and gets under my chair, and we are both there, and I have been trying to lift something I cannot lift, and I have been lying, because I did not know how to lift it with you, instead of on my own." "Tell me what it is," he told me. He had been Teacher of the Year at his school the year before last. He had been nominated by a student. He had been given a small cash prize and a plaque and the picture in the local paper that the school still had framed in the front office. He had also been accused in October of last year by a former student of an inappropriate relationship. The accusation was false. It was, in Callum's word, garbage. But it had taken 9 months to clear, and in those 9 months the school had suspended him without pay. His name had been in the paper for the wrong reasons, and the student who had nominated him, a girl named Iris, who was 16 and had once called Callum the only reason I came to school, had herself tried to kill herself in late spring and had written in the note her parents had let him read, "He was kind, and nobody believed him, and that was the worst thing I ever saw." Callum had been cleared in July. He had been reinstated in August. He had not told me. He had not told his mother. He had not told his sister. He had told no one. He had carried it alone, because in his mind there were 2 versions of himself, one whose name had been cleared, and one who had let it almost kill someone else's child, and he did not know how to be in the kitchen at 7:41 a.m. with both of them. He had not been fine. He had been standing in a doorway between 2 people he had been, and he had not known which one to bring home. For 6 days we did not speak about it. I did not say anything because I was angry, angrier than I had ever been, not at him, at me, at the 4 months I had spent watching him hold a mug and choosing, every single time, not to ask, at my mother, whose framed sentence I had seen every day and obeyed and not obeyed in equal measure. At my pride, at my fear, at the 11 years of marriage during which I had believed, childishly, that I could read him because I had once read him, and that if something went wrong I would feel it before he told me. I had not felt it. I had received no signal. I had been wrong. He did not say anything because he was ashamed. 9 months of silence is a kind of muscle. You build it up. You rest on it. You forget, for short, beautiful minutes, that you are even holding it. Then you sit at a kitchen table with a mug, and your wife tells you she knows, and you realize the muscle is the only thing standing. On the 6th day, I packed Mavis's bag. I put her food in a small plastic container. I put her leash by the door. I put a note on the kitchen counter, next to his mug. It said, "I'm taking the dog. I'm taking her because she is small, and I am small, and we need to walk somewhere that is not here for a while. I'm not leaving you. I'm leaving the silence. I'll come back tonight. I love you. I'm sorry I let you hold this alone." He called me at 11 a.m. He did not say much. He said, "I read the note. Good. You said you were sorry." "I am. You didn't do anything." "I did a lot. I sat across from you 4 mornings and watched you hold a mug, and I said nothing. That's a lot." He was quiet. Then he said, "Where are you walking?" "Down by the river. I'll meet you at the bridge at noon." "No. No? You don't meet me at the bridge. You meet me by telling me what happened with Iris. All of it, in order, no skipping. Even the parts that make you sound like someone you don't want to be. I will sit on the grass. I will listen. You will tell me everything." He said yes. He met me at the river. He sat on the grass. He told me everything. He told me about Iris, about her parents, who had believed her and not believed him, who had believed her again when the school had cleared him, and not again when the paper had cleared him, about the girl who had stopped coming to class, about the counselor who had called him in October, the day Iris had been hospitalized, and said, very gently, "She wrote about you, and we wanted you to know," about the way he had driven home from the school that night at 30 miles an hour on a road that should have taken 10 minutes, with his hands shaking and the heater on because he was cold in October, in a way that the heater could not reach. He told me about his mother, who had been alive and on the phone every Sunday asking how he was, and how he had said fine, 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 in a voice that was now, hearing it again, the voice of his father at the lumber yard, quiet, capable, unsustainable. He told me about me. He told me he hadn't told me because he hadn't known how to be the man who had been cleared, and the man who had nearly caused the death of a child at the same time, and he hadn't wanted me to see him as both at the kitchen table, and he was right that it was impossible, and he was also right that the impossible didn't get less impossible just because he didn't say it. He told me until he ran out. Then he put his head on his knees. I sat beside him. I didn't touch him, because he hadn't asked to be touched. Mavis came and leaned against his knee, the way she always did. The river did what rivers do, which is continue. We went home. He slept through the night, the first full night in a year. I lay beside him and listened to him breathe the way you listen to a small animal you have found again. In the morning, he was already in the kitchen. The mug was empty. The kettle was on. He was not holding it. He made a list. He said, "I want to do these things with you. Tell his mother. Tell his sister. Visit Iris with her parents' permission. Write to the school board. Take Mavis to the river every Sunday, even in winter. Take me to dinner on Saturday, and not as a reflex, as a date. Stop saying fine. Replace the framed sentence on the wall with a different one." "What sentence?" I asked. He wrote it down and gave it to me. It said, "He who says he is fine is asking to be believed. Believe him, then ask again." I took it down from the wall. I held it in my hands. I had lived under it for 15 years. It had been right. It had been wrong. It had been, like every true sentence, true and its opposite at the same time. I put the new one up. I put the old one in a drawer, and I will keep it forever, the way you keep a letter from your mother who was difficult and right. What I did was not heroic. It was small. It was the smallest thing I could have done, and the largest thing I had done in 15 years of marriage and 22 years of being a person with a mother whose only sentence I had ever framed. What I did was this. I sat down. I asked the second question. I asked the third. I asked, again, "Are you fine?" And I did not accept yes as an answer until I had looked into his eyes and seen, beyond the word, the man. I did this every morning for 62 mornings, until he could do it himself. I did this on his behalf, the way his mother had done it for him, when he was 8, and his father had not come home from the lumber yard one winter night, and Callum had said, in a voice exactly like his father's, "I'm fine, Mom, fine, Mom, fine, Mom," and his mother had held him anyway. What I did was not love. It was not courage. It was not even honesty. What I did was the slower thing, The look, the second look, the look that says, I see you holding the mug, and I am not going to pretend you are drinking. That was all. That was everything. In April, Iris came to dinner. She was 17. She brought her mother. She brought a small wooden box she had made in woodshop, with a lid that didn't quite close, and inside was a folded note. She handed it to Callum. He opened it. He read it. He cried. He cried the way men in lumberyards do not cry, and the way their sons, who teach biology, do cry, and the way their grandsons will, if we are lucky, learn to cry. In rooms where someone is asking the second question, the note said, Mr. Voss, you were kind when nobody was watching. I was watching anyway. Thank you for not saying fine. He framed it. He put it on the wall, on the other side, next to my mother's sentence, which I had put back up after a year, because she was difficult and she was right, and the room needed both sentences to be balanced. On Sunday he put Mavis on the leash. We walked to the river. He carried the wooden box in his coat pocket, the way you carry a photograph of a person you haven't quite met yet. On Monday he made breakfast. On Tuesday, he didn't say fine. He said, today was hard. And I said, tell me. And he did. The bridge over the river is small. It is wooden. It has been there longer than either of us. On the day he met me at the bridge, the day I had walked away with the dog and the small note, he had put his head on his knees and I had not touched him. Now he touches me. Now he holds my hand. Now we walk Mavis across it every Sunday, and the river does what rivers do, which is continue. There are days when he is still tired in a different way. There are days when he doesn't want to make breakfast, and I make it. There are days when he comes home from school and sits in his study and doesn't come out until dinner, and on those nights I leave a plate on the counter and I don't ask, and he comes out, and he eats, and he tells me what happened, and I say, tell me more, and he does. There are days when I am tired too. Days I want to say fine and mean it. Days I want to be the woman who is closed in 2 seconds at the kitchen table and known without the second question. But I chose to ask, and I cannot unask, and he cannot untell, and the bridge we cross on Sunday is the bridge we built and the bridge we did not build, and we walk it together. He said he was fine. What he meant was, I am tired, and I do not know how to be seen. I asked, and asked, and asked. What I did was the smallest, largest thing. I refused to let the word fine finish the sentence. It changed everything. It changed him. It changed me. It changed the wall above the television from a single sentence to 2. It changed Sunday breakfast and Tuesday walks, and the kind of silence we keep and the kind we break. It changed the mug. He drinks from it now, and the chip is still on the rim, and I love the man inside it again. Not for the man he was when I was 19, but for the man he is now, who says, every morning, in his own real voice, today was hard, tell me how to help. I am the woman he asked. I am the woman who asked back,